Deep inside a cave in the Indonesian island of Sulawesi, on a wall that no sunlight has ever touched, there is a painting. It shows a wild pig, and beside it, small human-like figures that appear to be hunting it, holding what look like spears and ropes. It is a simple scene, but here is the detail that should stop you cold. That painting is at least 51,000 years old. It was made by human hands more than 40,000 years before the first pyramid, before the first city, before the wheel, before writing of any kind. Someone crawled into the darkness with a torch and a handful of colored earth and chose to make a picture. Why? What could possibly drive a person, deep in the Ice Age, to paint on the walls of a cave they could barely see? Today, we are going on a journey into the deepest, oldest art gallery on Earth, to meet the very first artists and to ask the haunting question they left for us. Why did they do it? Let us begin with where and when, because the story has been completely rewritten in just the last few years. For most of the last century, people believed that art was born in Europe. The famous painted caves of France and Spain, places like Lascaux and Chauvet, with their galloping horses and charging bulls, were thought to be the birthplace of human creativity. Chauvet alone holds images more than 30,000 years old, ghostly lions and rhinos rendered with breathtaking skill. And in a Spanish cave called El Castillo, a simple red disc on the wall has been dated to at least 40,000 years old, making it one of the oldest known cave markings in Europe. But then archaeologists turned their attention to the islands of Southeast Asia, and what they found shattered the old story. In the caves of Sulawesi and nearby Borneo, they discovered figurative paintings, real pictures of real animals that were even older than Europe's. Using a clever dating method that measures tiny mineral crusts forming over the paint, they pushed the dates back and back. A painting of a wild pig dated to at least 45,000 years. Then a hunting scene redated to over 50,000 years. The oldest known storytelling picture on the planet, found not in Europe but in Indonesia. The conclusion was stunning. Art was not a European invention. The capacity to paint, to represent the world in images, was something human beings carried with them as they spread across the globe. Some researchers now suspect that our ancestors already knew how to make art before they ever left Africa, tens of thousands of years earlier still. Now, picture what it actually took to make these paintings, because this is where the wonder really sets in. These were not casual doodles near the cave mouth where the light was good. Many of the greatest works are found deep inside cave systems, far from any natural light, in chambers you can only reach by crawling through narrow, pitch-black passages. To paint there, an Ice Age artist had to bring fire with them, a torch or a small lamp burning animal fat, casting a flickering, unsteady light on the wall. They had to prepare their paints, grinding lumps of red and yellow ochre, black manganese and charcoal into powder, and mixing it with water, spit, or animal fat to make it stick. And then, by that trembling firelight, in the cold and the dark and the silence, they painted. This was not easy. This was deliberate, difficult, dangerous work, undertaken in one of the least comfortable places imaginable. Nobody crawls into the freezing dark to make something they do not care about. Whatever drove these artists, it mattered to them deeply. So what did they paint? Overwhelmingly, they painted animals. The walls of these ancient caves are alive with creatures, the great beasts of the Ice Age world. Horses, bison, deer, lions, rhinos, mammoths, and wild cattle thunder across the stone, often drawn with astonishing skill and beauty, capturing the muscle and movement of living animals in a way that still takes your breath away. These artists were not crude or primitive. They were keen observers of the natural world, masters of line and form, who understood the animals they depicted intimately, and that itself is a clue. The creatures they painted were the large, powerful, often dangerous animals that dominated their world, the animals they hunted, feared, and depended on. The cave was, in some sense, filled with the most important and most powerful beings in the lives of these people. But here is where the mystery deepens, and where we have to be honest about the limits of what we can know. We can date the paintings, we can identify the animals, but we cannot crawl inside the minds of people who lived 50,000 years ago and ask them what they meant. The why remains one of the great unsolved questions of human prehistory. And over the years, scholars have proposed several fascinating possibilities, none of them certain, all of them revealing. One idea is that the paintings were a form of hunting magic. Perhaps by painting the animals they wished to catch, these people believed they could gain power over them, ensuring a successful hunt. The image becomes a kind of spell, a way of reaching out to influence the real animals out in the world. Another idea is that the caves were sacred spaces, sites of ritual and ceremony, where the paintings played a role in religious or spiritual practices we can barely guess at. The deep, hidden chambers, so hard to reach, might have been special, set-apart places, perhaps used for initiations or encounters with the spirit world. And this connects to one of the most extraordinary details in all of cave art. In Sulawesi and elsewhere, some of the figures are not fully human and not fully animal. They are part human, part animal beings, a human body with the head of a bird, or a figure with a tail. Scholars call these therianthropes, and they are profoundly important, because to paint a creature that does not exist in the real world, you must first imagine it. You must be able to conceive of something you have never seen. This is the signature of a fully modern human mind, capable of imagination, of symbolism, and perhaps of belief in the supernatural, in spirits, in beings beyond the everyday world. These ancient painters were not just recording what they saw, they were imagining what they could not see, which may be one of the earliest traces of religion, of mythology, of storytelling itself. There is yet another beautifully simple possibility. Perhaps some of it was, at least in part, a way of telling stories. That Sulawesi hunting scene, with its human-like figures and its pig, may be the oldest known narrative in human history, a story frozen on a wall, a tale someone wanted to tell and preserve. Imagine the scene, a group gathered in the flickering torchlight, an elder pointing to the painted figures, recounting a great hunt, a myth, a lesson, passing it on to the young. The cave wall becomes the world's first page, and the painting becomes the world's first written story, told not in words, but in images. The truth is, we may never know for certain, and perhaps it was never just one thing. Art, even today, serves many purposes at once.
It can be sacred and practical, a story and a spell, a record and a prayer, all at the same time. What we can say with certainty is this: tens of thousands of years ago, human beings looked at the world around them, felt something powerful enough to act on, and made images to express it. They had the same creative spark, the same drive to represent and imagine and create that lives in every artist today. The hand that painted the pig in Sulawesi and the hand that paints a masterpiece now are, in the deepest sense, the same kind of hand, guided by the same kind of mind. And that is the most moving thing of all. When you stand before these ancient paintings, you are looking at one of the oldest and most human things in existence, proof that the urge to create, to make beauty and meaning out of pigment and stone, is not a modern luxury, but an ancient and essential part of who we are. The first artists are long gone, their names and their stories lost forever to time. But their art remains, glowing on the walls of the deep caves, speaking across 50,000 years. They reached out from the darkness to leave a mark, to say in the only way they could, "We were here, we saw the world, and we made it beautiful." And we are still listening.